path of least resistance becomes regional cooperation. That's what we've seen essentially in the last 20 years. While the multilateral process has gone basically nowhere since the GATT 94, what you've had are this multiplicity of bilateral agreements of various qualities, of various architecture, but I think the underlying driving force, as usual, is technology. The governments have responded very practically to that. There's been a lot of progress in free trade in goods. Trade in services has lagged behind, partly because services are harder to negotiate, partly because they're not always seen. Many services are embedded in the goods themselves that travel across the border. The services chapters in those free trade agreements simply, looked at the status quo and adopted it. Okay, they didn't really provide additional market opening in services, which would be necessary if you were serious about reducing regulation. Regulation remains a challenge. It's not surprising to me that it's rated highly by executives in the region as a difficulty of business, and it's one that will take many years of serious work. The most salient policy advice I could give is you got to think ahead. You can't think about what your industries were 10 or 15 years ago. You got to think about where's your economy growing in the next 10 or 15 years, and what kinds of new technologies and new ways of doing business and new approaches and new ideas need to be dealt with in that period of time, and to structure your reform agenda, which every economy needs, as a way to do that. Governments have a big job ahead, but the most important thing is to look ahead, don't look at the way things used to be, because they won't be that way anymore.